The rules of Elizabeth I brought great changes to England, brought to power in a time when her country was faced with a number of economic and political issues that needed resolving, brought about the 1559 Elizabethan settlement. With the settlement came a number of significant consequences that had a large impact not only on England's foreign affairs, but also on the future of the country itself. The 16th century European Reformation played a large role in the causes of the Elizabethan settlement. The Catholic Church was under pressure from the founder of Protestantism, Martin Luther, to be more true to Christ's teachings. The Bible states that in order to achieve salvation, one must always repent of their sins and live an honest and virtuous life. Luther felt that God's wrath was to be inflicted when and where God saw fit, and should not be delayed by salvation, by clergymen, or by the selling of indulgences, which supposedly gave sinners time to repent. Luther saw the selling of indulgences as a way for the church to make money and an exploitation of its followers. Because he felt the church had strayed too far from its original values, he left the Roman Catholic Church, and eventually brought about Protestantism, which ended up playing a key role in the lead-up to the Elizabethan settlement. But religion in England was ever-changing. Different monarchs had their own ideas for the church. Under the rule of Henry VIII, there was a religious reformation, in which Henry, like Martin Luther, broke away from the Roman Catholic Church in order to start his own church, the Church of England, which he named himself the head of, and was a political cause for the 1559 settlement. While Henry had complete power over the church, as he desired, England still remained a largely Catholic country. Protestantism was officially recognised as a state religion until the rule of Edward VI, Henry's only son. Being raised under Protestant faith, Edward and his advisers introduced the 1549 prayer book and the 1552 prayer book. These were more radical ways of instilling the new religion. England didn't return to Catholicism until after Edward's death, when his eldest sister Mary came to inherit the throne. Unlike Edward, Mary's mother was a strict Catholic, and so raised her with the same beliefs. Mary relied on violence to bring Catholicism back to England, burning almost 300 Protestants at the stake throughout her rule. Mary's actions caused several Protestants to flee the country, and started a feud between Protestants and Catholics that would greatly influence the nature of the Elizabethan settlement. Introducing the Elizabethan settlement to England resulted in significant consequences to all aspects of life for her subjects and her country. While Elizabeth had every right as a monarch to, in a more humane way than her sister, make the Church of her choice the Church of England, she was faced with various difficulties when trying to persuade the settlement to be accepted at a local and political level. While the settlement was Elizabeth's idea, Parliament would not support her until they were sure they could benefit from it personally. Being a woman in the 16th century automatically classed you as being second class to men. While Parliament supported the Queen, the fact that she was a woman never failed to keep her one step behind her goals, and it wasn't until the prospect of the settlement gaining them land and a profit that Parliament started to aid her in enforcing it. From a Catholic point of view, the new Pope, Pius V, did not like Elizabeth. He did not want Protestants sitting on the English throne, and him, like most Catholics at the time, thought that Mary, Queen of Scots, was the true heir to the crown. He then heard Elizabeth excommunicated and said that she was a heretic and a favourer of heretics to try and convince her subjects to abandon their allegiance to her. The first signs of a truly negative reaction to the settlement started on the streets of England, with Protestants back in power. All those forced to flee the country under Mary's reign returned to England with hopes that they'd come home to a new, stronger vision for the church, but were disappointed. Having travelled and seen the true potential of a strong Protestant church had given these men and women a clear idea of how their own Protestant church should be. And Elizabeth's settlement was not nearly the radical change they were hoping for. They called themselves the Puritans and wanted Catholicism abolished. In their opinion, the settlement was far too accommodating to the Catholics, when they themselves had to suffer such miserable treatment when the Catholic Queen was in power. Gathering followers and fighting the Catholics every step of the way, and the rise of the Puritans is also a significant consequence of the Elizabethan settlement. Responses to the settlement became much more radical from both sides of the religious divide. As a consequence, several Catholics began plotting against Elizabeth. Threats against her life were made first with the Northern Rebellion in 1569, followed by the Ridolfi Plot in 1570, and the Babington Plot in 1586. but failed in replacing the Queen and made Catholic subjects appear as traitors, making the following years difficult for any Catholics living in England, as several were prosecuted for recusancy. Elizabeth was losing the loyalty of her people, and in 1581 an act was passed that made it treason to play any part in withdrawing English subjects from their allegiance to the Queen or her church, and fines for refusing to go to church, recusancy, were put up to as much as £20. Elizabeth knew that many of her subjects would not be able to afford this, and as this was the last resort of sorts to put an end to the threat of growing rebellion posed to the Queen's reign, to lessen the Catholic threat, Elizabeth's government also tried divide-and-rule tactics. In 1590, a dispute between Jesuits and other priests developed at Wisbech in Cambridgeshire over who should control the rebellion in England. This quarrel soon spread throughout the English priesthood,